I'm Jesse Dubuque. I am the blacksmith here at the Sellers Blacksmith Shop in Freetown, Mass. I actually am teaching classes every 6 months or so. Our information's on the Freetown Historical website if you want to join the classes to learn how to be a blacksmith in your own right. So what we're doing here today is we're actually learning some of our basic techniques with shaping and making usable steel objects. So right here what we're doing is we're actually making an eye hook. So what I'm doing is having him put that on the horn, and what he's going to do is he's just going to be striking that down, and as he's doing that he's turning it around, and what we're going to be doing is forming out a hook. So one of the ways that we use this is we have what we call, these are outdoor forges, and these outdoor forges are portable forges that they would use they used right up to the Second World War pretty commonly. And so what we have here is we're making some fire objects where we've done some decorative things where we have twisting and things like that, and we're doing some basic shaping work on these. And so as the point of the class is that what we're learning to do is the basic skills of blacksmithing, so that as we learn the basic skills of shaping and hammering and things like that, heat properties in metal, and really exciting the molecules and what they do, what we're doing is we're eventually transferring those skills into more advanced projects like smelting, or a lot of people like knife making and things like that. And so that's what we're kind of giving them the basic skills to do. So right here, he's turning this into an eye hook right here. So he's bending it around and turning that into the hook. And so as he has that there, so while it may not seem as exciting as forged in fire, a lot of times these are the basic skills that you have to have in order to pursue those more advanced things. So if we actually go in the shop, I'll actually show you some of the inside forging that we do here in the original forge. This was the shop that was in use in Freetown right actually up until the 1970s, right about 1975. Although it had been a kind of a dying art at the same time, there was still a lot of interest in it. So when they transferred the building over here, this is actually the original forge right here, and it's still used, as you can see, for a variety of different kinds of tasks. We have several anvils, different kinds of tongs, hammers, all kinds of things, because this was a wheelwright shop. And what that basically means is that they made both wagon wheels and iron implements, shoes, things like that. And so we might have objects where we have blacksmith hooks, and we have other things like that that are useful for everyday purposes. So we can get into the more fancy things where we make things, for instance, where we could make, the typical knife that everybody wants to make, and while we're doing this, we want to just make sure that we have the kind of basic metallurgical skills to get up to this point, although we do those as well. So what we're doing is learning every step along the way so that we can make ourselves better blacksmiths and able to really see any kind of metal project that we might want to work on, and have the skills that we need in order to make those come to fruition. So we've done everything in this shop that goes all the way from making hooks to making engine parts. And we've made parts for Model Ts, and we can make fine work, we can make delicate work, more heavy things like that. As we go through the shop, we have the old wheelwright shop is actually over here, and then this is what is actually called an oxen shoer. So the reason that they have these is that oxen actually have the cloven hoof, and they can't stand on 3 feet. So what they do is they have the ox come in, and you'd have men pull on these levers to lift up this large strap right here, and that would actually support the ox while they shoed them, and then they let them back down, and out they would go. And so there are actually some pictures of this in the shop and in the museum. If you come on down, you can see those. But this contraption, as I said, there's only a couple of these left in the whole of the U.S., mainly because they're like a 4-door car. They're used up and then that. Right here we have a railroad spike, and what we're doing is we're putting a twist into the railroad spike. So what he's done is he's heated it up, and we have a special tool that we've made that we're doing, and it puts a twist in there. And while that's a little bit of the slag comes off, at the same time, we just clean that up a bit, and then we have a nice twist in the railroad spike. And the forge actually gets so hot that it'll very, very easily melt iron. And iron melts at 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit. So when you leave something in there, even for a few minutes, you can have it pull out and it looks like a birthday candle. It's just melting and moving away. And so we kind of want to avoid that anytime that we can. But when we have this going, metal that we put in here will heat up very, very quickly and then be worked. And we can work it with a variety of methods, whether that's with tongs and hammer. We even have right down to the good old 2x4. That this is to move stuff when you have curls and other things, and you don't want to destroy fine work. You might use this to actually move the steel. So when So he's starting in on the basic shaping, and what that eventually is going to go down to is a couple of decorative objects where we have here, where we have leaves and other decorative things that we're able to use that for. But you have to, of course, start someplace. So what we're doing is getting those decorative objects down and ready to go. We have a few different things here that we've made where we have pineapples. This is actually what's called a pineapple handle, and that's made from doing twists and different things of that nature. And we have just a fire tool that has a bit of flair to it. We have a little bit of twists and some pineapple things in there and a ball on the end and the whole bit. We have an S-hook with a twist that just gives it a little extra flair. This is an oxen shoe, and the oxen shoe is, as you can see, they have a cloven hoof, and so you had to make each shoe separately for each side of the hoof, depending on what they were going to do. And so when we make these for individuals, we need to know if they're going to be summer or winter shoes, and if they're going to be shoeing cloven-hoofed animals or horses or things like that. So there's actually quite a bit of things that we can do here in the blacksmith shop.
This is a picture of the original shop, which would have been down at the Four Corners in Sawmill. So this blacksmith shop's a replica off this design, but there's a couple of oxen in front. I'm not sure when the picture was taken, but this is the Sellers Blacksmith Shop, and that's actually Barney Sellers, who was the last blacksmith in Sona, or Freetown. He passed away in 1974, so a lot of people around town remember him. Leon Cudworth remembers him traveling around town, plying his trades. He would have been a carriage builder. He would have been a wheelwright, probably a farrier, so he would have shoed horses, oxen. They would have been, if it dealt with metal, the blacksmith probably was able to do it in a small village. A larger city, you would have had very specialized shops that would have, a carriage shop would have only worked on carriages, a blacksmith shop probably only fabricated steel. So, but in small villages, there wasn't enough demand for any of these trades, so the blacksmith became a jack of all those trades. This gentleman right here, he was our blacksmith, Conrad Bernier, Slim Bernier, and he made that. This is a replica of a Civil War forge. So when the troops were moving around, they would have had a blacksmith forge traveling with him, again, to do all the horseshoeing, fabricating any types of metal that they would have used during the service in the Civil War or after the Civil War. So this is just a replica. We have it here, and people wouldn't generally think about how horses were shoed or what type of where metal was fabricated when you're headed toward a battle or moving around. So there would have been a blacksmith shop that would have traveled with the troops. The Deemer Anvil blacksmith shop was in East Freetown, so Assonance a village. They had a blacksmith shop, it had a sawmill, a grist mill, etc. East Freetown's also a village, all part of Freetown. They had a blacksmith shop, was the Deemer Anvil blacksmith shop. This forge is from, and most of this equipment comes from the Deemer Anvil blacksmith shop. So we get the design of the Sellers blacksmith shop, but a lot of the bones of this shop came from East Freetown or the Deemer Anvil blacksmith shop.
Sometimes when you take a piece that's very hot, and we might want to cool that down rapidly, and so if we do that, and now that's cooled it down rapidly, so it's gone from red hot to handleable in just a little bit.
I'm Rick Kendrick of the Freetown Historical Society. I'm on the board of directors. I'm the president. This is the original building. This isn't a replica. A lot of our other buildings are replicas. This was moved from Chase Road in East Freetown around 1975. And these pews, some of these are original. A lot of the other artifacts aren't. The organ was something that was donated. The organ was rebuilt. We've got a member, Milt Batchelor, that's into restoring organs, and he's restored 2 or 3 others for us. And it's all workable, all playable. Was heated by a stove similar to that, the one here in front of us. The pipe goes up and out, and as you can see, the chimney doesn't go all the way down to the ground. The bottom of the chimney starts over the head of the door, which I would imagine on a chimney fire would have been kind of nasty, but I don't think there was ever any fires here. We've had a couple of weddings here over the last 10 years or so. A couple of Christmases, they sang Christmas carols, and when open houses here, the organ's being played, and usually there's somebody in here singing. The picture right here in front of me is a picture of the building before it was moved when it was on Chase Road, diagonally across from Chase Cemetery. This gray building right ahead of us is the Carriage Shed, where we store a lot of farm equipment, and we've got a 49 Ford pickup in there, omnibus that came from the Fall River Historical Society, and we'll probably be checking that out later. That's not a replica, it's just a carriage shed. The next building, the white schoolhouse, is a replica of the Mason's Corner Schoolhouse that was on Middleborough Road. It's where the VFW is now. And that's before 1910, because in 1910 they added on another room in the front. So we figure that would have been anywhere from 1895 to 1910. This white building is a replica of the Sharrock store that was in East Freetown on County Road. They sold, specialized in meats, but canned goods and a typical general store.
This is a replica of the Sharrock store that was in East Freetown. We tell the school children it's the Walmart of the day. At one time this store had quality meats, also had a post office. The gentleman that ran it lived right next to it, Albert Sharrock. All the items on the shelf are just replicas of what they would have sold. The types of soda crackers, tobacco items, canned good items. It's a national cash register which was donated to us, similar to what they might have had in the day, that does still work. That was how they would make peanuts, roasted peanuts. They'd have the fire down the bottom, put the peanuts here, and they would heat it up and get the peanuts to roast. On the other side of that, there's a coffee grinder. On the wall here, there's a picture of Mr. Sharrock. The little shop man is Mr. Sharrock, the start of the store, and the man that helped him was Albert Foster. And Mr. Foster ran it after Mr. Sharrock retired. The stove you see is similar to what they would have had in the store. We can put a fire in there and warm this place right up. We have right here an ice box. The ice would go in the top up here, and they use ice tongs to put the ice in. You put your food items in the bottom, and supposedly it kept the foods cool.
This is a replica of the Resendiz sawmill, Wilson Resendiz sawmill, located at 79 and Mill Street. It was right on the dam right there. Always powered by water. As far as we know, it wasn't converted to electricity or diesel. Ran until somewhere around 1939.
The outhouse that you see there, we have where the school children come. Many times, some of the little kids will say, "Oh, I need to go to the bathroom. Can I use that outhouse?" No, it's not able to be used. This was called the Hathaway House, and they were tearing the house down, and at the time they said, well, if there's anything you want for your museum, speak up. And so we did. We went down and took the floorboards off the floor, took the chimney, the mantle, that door, the window, and reassembled, made a room here. But this did not have any rooms in it whatsoever. This was just a plain, wide open building. A lot of the things you'll see here are items that were donated by families. Some of it we have some history on, some of it we know a little bit about, but if they don't give us the story, we don't know what it is. When you talked about the chapel, the organ in the chapel, that's another organ that Mr. Batchelor rebuilt for us. It's a pump organ. If you look at this street light, that was a street light here in town. It was right in the Sonnet Four Corners in front of the town hall. And we have a picture of it at the town hall. We've got loads and loads of pictures. It would take you all day to go just look through the pictures. Well, this is another display room, but this room here has many items of the Civil War. Major John M. Dean was from Freetown. He won Medal of Honor recipient, and we have his Medal of Honor certificate and his Medal of Honor. And that has been on display at the New Bedford Whaling Museum, but we try not to let it leave the building. Again, some guns that from the Civil War. Over here we have some more guns from the Civil War. That saddle is from Mr. Dean's horse during the Civil War. And that picture is Mr. Dean, the Major John M. Dean. Also here in Assonet there was a Davis gun factory that made double-barrel shotguns. And in this cabinet you will see some double-barrel shotguns that were made right here in Assonet from the N.R. Davis gun factory. This Dr. Briggs, he was one of the popular doctors here in the village. And a lot of these items came out of his office after he closed and passed away. I hate to admit this, but he did bring me into the world, Dr. Briggs.
We have an 18-star flag here from, we figure, the late 1800s. It should have been around 1812, we believe, but the stitching we had analyzed and said it would have been in the material, would have been late 1800s, early 1900s. And it believe that Dr. Braley's wife put it together, all hand-stitched, and we've got it displayed so you can see the front and the back.
All right, we're going to be going downstairs into the basement. We have in our basement some old cars, antique cars. We have an antique fire truck. We have a Model A, restored Model A, and beyond that we have a textile room with all sorts of sewing machines and textiles. Over here to the front of us is a fire truck. It's called a 12-man pumper. And it was used in Freetown from 1887 to 1923. And to this day it will still pump water. This is a fully restored 1931 Ford Model A. It's runnable. We could take it right out and drive it out the street right now if we had to, wanted to. It was donated to us by Mr. Grimshaw. Grimshaw Goodowitz Charitable Foundation helps fund our building and keeps us running because we do not receive any town money whatsoever. It's all donations, fundraisers, and grants. This car here is a 1938 LaSalle. The next one is a 28 Franklin. Franklin is air-cooled engine, has a wooden frame. Probably would run if we had somebody that could work on it. This came out of the Surrey shop in New Bedford. This loom it came from a house here in town. They had a very serious chimney fire and they wanted it out of their house before the house burned down. So we went to the house, took the thing apart piece by piece, brought it here, assembled it, and it still works to this day. We have a couple of talented people that can come in and make what they've made there just to show that it does work. The dollhouse was made by a gentleman in New Bedford who made it for his daughter. And then when she outgrew it, he saved it for his granddaughter. And then when she outgrew it, he didn't know what to do with it, so he gave it to us. Most everything inside has been handmade. This house was built by Robert Gurney from New Bedford, and these photos here in front here were from the New Bedford Standard Times. This room here is another house that they were going to tear down to make room for Algonquin gas and transmission. And at that time, was there anything we wanted? So we went down and we took the stairway, this whole stairway, some of the moldings and the woodwork upstairs, floor work. And the fireplace is a slate fireplace, and that came from the house. At the time they told us there was 4 of those fireplaces in the house. We want to thank you for coming down here today, and hope that the people that see this program will come and visit our museum and plan to spend an afternoon with us or a day with us.